Hey everyone, so today I'll be going over a new Ultra League Premier Cup team, and this one actually took me on a 12-0 win streak at rank 9. So the team I've been using is Ampharos, Charizard, and Scizor. For Ampharos' second charge move, you can either run Focus Blast or Dragon Pulse. I have ran both using this team, and I think Dragon Pulse overall is a little bit better, but Focus Blast definitely has some usage, and I'll definitely talk a little bit about the differences in the video. So getting into the matches, Gyarados lead, obviously very good and favorable for Ampharos, so you definitely want to swap out and maintain that lead advantage. And then in this situation, because they brought in a Fairy type, very easy matchup for Scizor, so just pretty much drop the Bullet Punch or Iron Head, and then you'll be fine. And then I left only a little bit of room for the Charizard to farm off of me. And because of the Charizard, obviously Ampharos is pretty good against it, but I have a much better matchup with my Ampharos against their Gyarados, so no need to really spend my Gyarados in that spot. And then I'm going to tank this Aqua Tail, or I guess I shield it. That's fine too. At this point I could just farm down. They end up leaving that match. Empoleon, also a great lead for Ampharos, so most of the waters are a pretty good spot for Ampharos to be in. However, Empoleon does hit kind of hard with Hydro Cannon, so I do always shield, because if you don't shield and they don't end up double shielding, it will definitely put you kind of low and you can't do too much with it. So my opponent does a great swap to Dragonite to absorb some of that damage, but then this is where Scizor comes in really handy. And so some people probably have thought maybe Escavalier might be better, but I think Scizor with that stealed fast move, and also some of this movesets has a little better coverage in some situations. I do like it a little bit more, but obviously Escavalier much better in the Empoleon matchup, so that's definitely something to think about. And then they bring in their Gyarados. Obviously this is going to be a very good spot for my Ampharos, so I'm going to just try to probably farm down. I might drop one. No, yeah, I just go straight farm down at this point. And then my opponent leaves the match right there. So Charizard didn't even need to do much in that one. All right, Swampert, biggest counter to this entire team. Technically, Swampert beats everything on the team. So Swampert lead, obviously it's not great. And then my opponent actually swaps out right here and catches the Night Slash on Lapras, which is not good because Lapras is very bulky. At this point, I'm just hoping for maybe a boost to kind of help me through, but my opponent smartly decides not to shield these and just tank all this damage, which is really good because they know they could still take me out right here. And then I guess potentially I could have shielded this, but there's really no point. I need to save all my shields for Hydro Cannons and even Earthquakes. So I am going to get a slight energy head start on this Lapras. Who knows what they have in the back. Yeah, and then so there's not too much play at this point. But they actually also do a great swap to Togekiss to catch the Dragon Claw too. So they're really doing everything they can. I maybe could have farmed up a little bit more energy there, looking back on that. But I really just wanted to avoid Ancient Power right there. And then I'm going to swap to my Ampharos right here, try to tank this charge move, but doesn't matter too much. They can farm up a bunch of energy off of me right now, and we're going to just drop the Thunder Punch to just chip away at this Swampert. Unfortunately, it's not really in a Fire Spin farm down range by any means, so it's not going to be great. But then they have probably 2 Hydro Cannons loaded right here, so yeah, unfortunately I was able to get them out of both their shields, but it's just not enough at this point. A Swampert team was actually what ended my 12-game win streak. So definitely something to watch out for. However, I have been able to beat Swampert a few times. In this situation, it's a Escavalier in the lead and then Swampert in the back. And so against the Escavaliers, you want to stay in for a little bit. So I usually shield the Drill Run and that drop back-to-back Thunder Punches. They usually shield the second one because it's going to KO them. They actually do a great swap though to Swampert. So in this situation, I'm going to have to counter swap. But I'm down shield, and they're up 2 shields. They also absorbed damage from my Ampharos and still have a little bit of energy on their Escavalier, so it's not great. Okay, so in this situation, I'm just going to spam out these Night Slashes. Technically, they could just go for Earthquake and one-shot me, but I think they're going to go for a Hydro Cannon right here, which is fine too as a move. And they actually bring in Escavalier to finish us off. So this actually puts me in a potentially good spot because I actually was able to draw their last shield, and then now This Hydro Cannon is going to put me low, but I will be able to survive it. And then now I could drop a Dragon Claw and take out this Swampert. I actually charge up a little extra just because I want to whittle down this Charizard's health as much as I can. Because I don't want them to be able to farm off with whatever's in the back. And it's going to be a Lapras, so this is going to be definitely very close. But I know that I can survive one Surf, and then I need to drop another Thunder Punch. So what I'm going to do right here is swap quickly to my Scizor, and because I know Ampharos has CMP over Lapras because it's higher attack, I know that I could still drop this without worrying about potentially getting hit by a Surf or anything. So yeah, very, very close game, but it is possible to beat Swampert. Even though Swampert beats everything on the team, with some maneuvering, you could potentially outplay your opponents. So same kind of situation where I'm just going to drop double Thunder Punches, see if they shield or not. So don't get a shield on first one, I drop another one. Luckily they didn't swap out to a Swampert and catch the Thunder Punch, so that's pretty good. And so that's what I usually mean by swap out eventually. So what you try to do is catch them and drop a Fire Spin on their Escavalier, and if you can catch it, then they lose a bunch of health. Even if not, it's not a bad idea to draw out their Water type, because now Ampharos can finish off this Gyarados, farm up some energy. I can survive this Aqua Tail, so I'm just tank it. And the Escavalier is still pretty low, so they're probably within like 1 or 2 volt switches away. Yeah, so as you can see, so that Fire Spin from the Charizard probably helped whittle that health down to the point where they couldn't do much with the Escavalier. Drop the Dragon Pulse, and then now I'm going to go with Scizor with just Night Slashes. This is still a very tough matchup because they technically could still beat me here. So I'm going to shield in case of Earthquake. It actually is an Earthquake, so very good that I shield that. So that potentially could have helped me win this matchup. But we'll see. And then they're going to drop, maybe it's another Earthquake. If it is, I'm taking out. So another Earthquake. But luckily, I had a little bit of health left with my Ampharos and was able to finish that off. So super close matches. Obviously, any Swampert teams overall is usually a very tough matchup and usually a loss, but there are some ways around it. Okay, so this is what I usually do against most fighters. So Escavalier is not a fighter, but it's pseudo fighter. What I do is drop the back-to-back Thunder Punches. Machamp is a little bit harder because those cross chops come out a little bit quicker. And then I swap to Charizard. And the big thing with that is it'll give me a slight energy advantage, and I'm going to resist any counters. And even if it's a counter from them, I actually was able to land a Blast Burn, so that puts me in a really good spot. Yeah, even if it's a counter to Charizard, pretty much everything's still not going to enjoy that Blast Burn. But yeah, and then it essentially frees up a lot of room for my Scizor in the back. So I'm going to drop this Dragon Claw. Luckily, my opponent actually shields it too. That puts me in a very good spot. I'm going to just let this Dark Pulse go because I know that it's not going to KO me. I want to save a shield just in case for this Machamp. And I actually do a great swap to catch the Cross Chop. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm good, right? But these counters are actually adding up a lot. And so what I probably should have done is dropped a Night Slash, because as you can see right now, I'm way too low. I can't get to an Iron Head in time, so I'm going to drop the Night Slash. But unfortunately, that unresisted damage is not going to be enough for Amok. So that was a loss on my end, but I think there were things I could have done a little bit better there, and obviously very well played by my opponent to recognize to just straight snarl down. And very good comeback from them after getting taken out with that Blast Burn on the Gengar. Okay, so Toxicroak, same situation. Double back-to-back Thunder Punches. Almost most players I know don't really let that go, so they'll usually drop a shield. In this situation, it's probably going to be a Sludge Bomb because they have enough energy, but just don't shield it because they're going to come in with a counter to your Charizard, and you want them to have as little energy to farm off your Charizard as possible. Was able to get their last shield with that Dragon Claw, which is good. I know this is going to be Octazooka, and unfortunately I get an attack drop, but I had to shield it because this is definitely going to hurt quite a bit. And then I'm going to bring in my Scizor, and then hopefully not get debuffed from this Octazooka, and luckily I didn't. And then luckily they had a Clefable in the back, so Clefable is definitely not going to do great against Scizor. I think they just want to whittle down as much as possible, but now I have a little extra farm, and we just drop the Night Slash and then take out the Kingdra right there. Kindra's also pretty solid because it resists the bullet punches, so it's not really a great matchup for Scizor, unlike Dragonite. Okay, so same thing with Heracross. Heracross obviously being weak to fire is a good spot. Actually there I don't charge up to 2 just in case I guess they dropped a close combat, but I think I could have played that better and just dropped the second one anyway. So now they actually farmed up a bunch of energy with this Empoleon. But the problem is, even though I'm shielding right here, I kind of wish I didn't CMP there because I probably could have farmed a little extra. This Heracross probably has 2 back-to-back close combat, so I'm going to shield the first one and then kind of expecting the second one to come through anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If I didn't shield it, I had to shield the next one with Scizor. And then unfortunately they have a Poliwrath in the back, which is a very hard counter to Scizor because all of Scizor's moves are resisted by Poliwrath. Honestly, I've never seen a line like this before and never seen it again since. Heracross in the lead with Poliwrath in the back. Definitely a very interesting and spicy line. So, yeah. So, I mean, you know, if you run into that, then GG's for sure. But I don't think it's a very common line. Does really well, though, against this one for sure. But yeah, Double Fighter took me by surprise for sure, especially with them segmented in the front and the back. So same thing with Obstagoon. The good thing about Obstagoon is usually what I charge up to is enough energy for a Focus Blast. And so even if you're not running Focus Blast, a lot of them will shield just in case it is a Focus Blast. It's kind of risky for them to let that go. So I'm going to let my Charizard go right here, and then drawing out any opponent's Charizard is really good because you don't have to worry about that matchup with Scizor on the back. So I kind of threw the Thunder Punch just because I didn't want to get hit by a Charm. I'm not sure if it went through or not, but I just kind of did it just so I had time to switch. But at this point, I'm just going to farm up a bunch of energy off of this Clefable, and then I have energy to throw Iron Head and Night Slash. I'm going to just bait with Night Slash because I know they're probably going to shield at this point anyway. So they do double shield, and then I have enough to still shield a move and then get to Iron Head. So that's what I'm going to do right here. It's only going to be neutral counter damage, so that's going to be pretty good. And then I'm going to drop the Iron Head and finish off the match. Oh yeah, and then Clefable's still alive, but I saw my Ampharos. So yeah, able to wrap up that match right there. Obstagoon is kind of bulky, so it's a little bit harder to deal with than other fighters, but doesn't hit as hard as well. So there's that trade-off. All right, Gallade. Technically is a fighter, but it doesn't use counter, but still similar principle. Drop the Thunder Punch. This one I played a little differently. I didn't do back-to-back Thunder Punches. I think it was early on. It depends on kind of how I play it, but usually I do the back-to-back Thunder Punches and shield the first charge move. But in this situation, I'm not going to, and that's fine too. I'm still going to be able to farm up quite a bit of energy here, and then I do let this Aqua Tail go because I know that I need to save my shield for this Gallade in the back. And so it's actually going to be a Venusaur coming through. So it's actually really bad because Scizor is not great against Gallade, but luckily that Gallade had a lot less health than I thought it would. So even if it had 2 moves right there, I think I'd be still in a pretty good spot. At this point, I'm just going to throw Night Slashes at this Venusaur. There's a chance for a boost, and also they have shields, and Night Slash still does pretty decent damage. Doesn't matter if they shield or not at this point. There's no way Scizor really gets taken out with this difference of health. I'm going to shield the first one because I don't know, maybe they're running like Solar Beam or something random, but obviously Frenzy Plant, you can survive, and you'll have no problems there. And then yeah, just going to throw this Night Slash and just finish it off. But yeah, so Scizor is actually a much better matchup than with Venusaur than Charizard is. So that's why in this situation I swap in Charizard as a safe swap. You might think Charizard is good, but 2 Sludge Bombs will take it out. Versus Scizor, you don't really need to shield anything, and usually you'll still do fine unless they have like a huge shield advantage, like a 2-0 shield advantage. But Charizard also is more likely to draw out the waters that Ampharos is better against. Obviously, besides Swampert, because Swampert, I mean, if you see that, then it's usually game over. But yeah, so I'm going to save the Scizor on the back and try to take out the Lapras. And then they're going to bring in their Venusaur right here. And then I'm going to just bring in my Scizor to take out their Machamp. So this is actually kind of a tough match. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to try to bait. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the bait, so great call by them. And then so I'm just going to bait again because at this point I really need that shield. And if they don't shield this, then I'm definitely in a bad spot. I'm going to just go for another Night Slash, try to whittle this down as much as possible. And then luckily I was able to bullet punch it down. And then now I'm trying to get to that Iron Head. able to reach it just because Scizor just is able to resist those Vine Wisps by a ton. And then that is actually a huge game changer because now I can survive this Frenzy Plant, so I just need to drop one Thunder Punch, and luckily I was just able to get to it, and then this was able to finish off the Venusaur. So definitely a tough matchup, but Grass Leads are always tough because usually they have Pokemon in the back that are good against yours. So in this matchup, same thing, I'm going to bring in Charizard. Charizard is pretty solid against Abomasnow, but those Weather Balls do hurt. So again, I'm going to say swap Charizard and leave Scizor for the back, because those Bullet Punches are still super effective against the Ice typing on Abomasnow. My opponent actually is a little bit slower to the swap, so I was able to, actually drop the Weather Ball. So I was able to drop 2 Dragon Claws, actually. So that's actually puts me in a very good spot. And then I believe I probably have to tank this one just because I don't want to go down a shield, especially when I don't have switch advantage. But that's actually a pretty good spot for me to be in. And then I do go for a quick swap to my Scizor right here, and then I'm going to try to Bullet Punch down. So they drop another Weather Ball, which is good because it gives me a little bit more energy to play with. Obstagoon, again, a counter to Scizor, so pretty much getting hard counter throughout. But you really have to try to manage your energy and try to take what you can get, especially on the swaps, especially if they're slower to counter swap. And here, even though I don't have an Iron Head ready, I just need to bait the Night Slash, and I was able to get the bait. Figured they were probably close to a charge move. They land a cross shot, but I actually have health left on this Scizor, so I'm thinking, okay, I have a little bit of health left. I could potentially Bullet Punch down this Abomasnow if I could whittle it down with Thunder Punches. So I do drop this Thunder Punch. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it to Dragon Pulse, and they're going to drop their energy, so this means they can't have a Weather Ball ready. So I'm like, okay, I'm in a good spot. This will be really close. One Bullet Punch. Unfortunately, there was lag, so they were able to Powder Snow me down. I was already low on health, so I don't know if it would have made a difference, but yeah, but you know, so either way, very tough lead and counter swaps in the back, but obviously even those situations, there's still a little bit of play there. So yeah, maybe if I got a boost sooner on Scizor or some other things, could have done a little better. But yeah, so Togekiss lead, actually very good, but because they swapped in a Charizard, I'm just going to swap out, and the main stay in actually because Ampharos has the best matchup against the opposing Charizard, and then I'm going to swap in my own Charizard, draw out any waters they have in the back. So was able to draw out the Empoleon. Charizard actually hits really hard with Blast Burn because it's neutral against Empoleon. Empoleon's pretty attack weighted, so it's going to be on the Glacier end. And at this point, I'm just going to finish off with Scizor, get a slight MG lead, and then take out, they're going to concede the match right there because they know it's over. So you want Scizor matched up against Togekiss, so it's okay if, yeah, if you just stay in. Pretty much the whole line beats Togekiss, so if you run into any Togekiss lines, it's pretty much like a 3 vs 2. So Clefable, definitely a little bit trickier because Ampharos doesn't have nearly as good of a matchup because it doesn't have that flying subtyping. So I'm going to bring out my Charizard, just draw out any counters they may have, primarily waters. So obviously because they have Obstagoon, they don't have any waters in the back. So I'm going to bring in Ampharos, which still has a better matchup against Obstagoon than Scizor does, and they do decide to double shield. So that's pretty good because now I have a shield advantage, and then this is probably not going to be able to take him out, but yeah, I'm just getting ready to swap. Was able to get to that last charge move. I go straight for Scizor, and then they actually have Drifblim. So Drifblim is not going to have a great matchup against Scizor. So I know this is going to be Icy Wind, so I'm not going to shield it. It's going to debuff me, but that's fine. I still do quite a bit of damage with these Night Slashes, and Scizor's just very attack weighted, so you don't have to worry there, and just get to 1 Iron Head, and then that'll finish off the Clefable. So Charmers in general don't do great against this line, so definitely a good Pokemon to see. Alright, so the Mirror. How do you play the Mirror? In this variation, I am running the Focus Blast variant of Ampharos, so I know this is either a bait or Dragon Pulse. So they end up throwing a Thunder Punch, so I am going to throw the Focus Blast. I would say almost 9 times out of 10, I actually do shield that first move. The only reason I didn't is because it's my first Mirror match I think I played, so I didn't realize. But if you do let that charge move go and it's a Dragon Pulse, or oh yeah, my game like quit out quickly, so I was kind of panicking. But if that does happen, you could potentially lose the match because you had to shield Thunder Punches, and then the rest of the line is not great against Ampharos. So I would definitely recommend shielding that first one. In that situation, though, it ended up working out that I didn't shield the first charge move, so you never know. But yeah, landing that Focus Blast or Dragon Pulse is huge in that Mirror matchup. So you definitely have to land that, and then I'm gonna just let this go. I know it's gonna be close combat, and then I just finished off with Charizard. Doesn't really matter what. At this point, I just land one Blast Burn, I'll be fine. Even if it's another Sludge Bomb, I'll be fine. And it is going to be one, that's okay. And then I'm going to drop the Blast Burn. Yeah, obviously I haven't run into any mirror lines in mine because I haven't really released this line yet. Okay, Magnezone lead. This actually is the Jonkus line, so something that people might be seeing quite a bit of, and this team actually plays really well against it. A lot of people like to safe swap Gallade right here, and Gallade actually does solid against my rest of my team, so with the energy advantage on Ampharos, just stay in, you know. I'm gonna just tank this Leaf Blade, get a little head start on Charizard. I figured that the rest of the line is probably Venusaur at this point after seeing the Gallade and Magnezone. So definitely an advantage you have of knowing some of the lines out there. And then I'm going to just drop 2 Dragon Claws right here. I know this second one isn't going to be enough to take it out. I'm going to let this, or I guess I do shield right here. And then Fire Spin goes through, and then don't even need a Scizor in the matchup. All right, going against only August. Definitely a great player, and I had a feeling he was probably using Jonkus line because I've watched his stream in the past, and he was using it the last time I watched it. And so Magnezone lead, usually a good assumption right there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to press the Thunder Punch in time, so he's able to string 2 Wild Charges back to back. So he actually swaps in Venusaur, which is a little bit tougher. What I should have done is actually swapped in Scizor because it has a much better matchup against Venusaur. But I swap in Charizard instead because I was kind of honestly a little bit on autopilot. And then I make another mistake. I get to a Blast Burn, but I drop a Dragon Claw. I can't get to another Dragon Claw in time anyway, so I should have just gone for Blast Burn, and he doesn't shield. So had I gone for the Blast Burn, I would be in a much better spot. But great call by him, recognizing that he can't shield right there. So I'm going to absorb the energy from the close combat at least, and then now have a bunch of energy from his Magnezone. Obviously, it's better if I drop these Thunder Punches when he is debuffed, but the problem is I can't really wait for that opportunity. And then I do let this go. I don't know if it was a great call, but I'm thinking I don't want to get farmed down with Sparks if I shield, and the Thunder Punch is not going to be able to take him out. So I decided to go in with Scizor instead, and I almost just conceded the match and didn't shield right there, but luckily I was able to get to a Night Slash. I'm assuming that he was probably at that mirror shot, or it was maybe a CMP tie, or he was 1 spark away, but it was a very close match. So I think if you are playing that Jonkus line against this line instead, I would say it's better to safe swap that Venusaur instead. Obviously, you know, you never know. I get why people swap Gallade because Venusaur is a better counter to Ampharos. But in this specific team composition, Venusaur safe swap probably makes more sense. All right, so in this spot, obviously against Charizard, it's good to be in. I did drop a Thunder Punch first on Ampharos because I want to make that Alolan Muk matchup a little bit easier, because it is kind of a more neutral matchup, and having a little energy advantage on Alolan Muk, it definitely makes it a little bit harder for Charizard to counter swap. And so I'm going to tank this, potentially Blast Burn. It ends up being a Dragon Claw actually, so that's not bad. And then I bring in my Scizor, obviously bad against Obstagoon, but you don't want it to be matched up against Charizard, obviously. So this is the best I could do. Okay, I would say also most of the Charizard matchups I have in the lead are usually very easy sweep. I purposely chose this clip because it's actually very close, so you'll see why in a second. But it's gonna be a very close matchup, and then I'm going to let this charge move go because I know that Charizard is loaded with energy in the back. Probably has at least a Dragon Claw, maybe even a Blast Burn. So they're going to drop a Dragon Claw. At this point, I know that I have to just farm down. There's no way I could win this match without it. Sliver of health left. Going to drop the Focus Blast. Thunder Punch from the fine too, but might as well if you have the energy. So definitely a great game of my opponent right there. But even with Obstagoon in the back, which is unfavorable to Scizor, you still have a lot of play. All right. So Dragonite lead, what I usually do is drop back-to-back Thunder Punches similar to against fighters, and then swap straight to Scizor. Because Scizor is going to resist any charge moves from Dragonite except for Hurricane. That'll be neutral. You don't have to worry about it too much. And I know this can't be Hurricane, so I'm going to let it go. And so I was able to absorb all that energy. And then they bring in their Shadow Machamp, so definitely a hard counter to Scizor. They actually don't shield, which it's kind of surprising, but maybe they thought it was a Night Slash, and now it's able to bullet punch down. And then because the Dragonite is so low at this point, you have a very good, you're in a very good spot. And then Shadow, Snorlax in the back. I guess double Shadow team. Definitely more potent variant of Snorlax in my opinion. But still able to, just missing the Dragon Claw right there. I'm going to shield and then just Volt Switch down. And then take out the Snorlax. So yeah, that's how you play Dragonites, Shadow or non-Shadow. They're going to shield usually the second Thunder Punch. Alright, Drifblim, a great matchup. Again, same thing with Alolan Muk safe swap, just like last time. You want to stay in a little bit longer just so that you have an easier matchup with Charizard. So I'm going to wait for them to throw a charge move right here, because that way I know they can't throw back-to-back Dark Pulses against my Charizard, and then I'm going to swap in. So now they have a second Dark Pulse, that's fine. I do survive this one. I'm going to just start throwing and getting ready for a Dragon Claw. And then we do, I don't know if it's CMP tie, because technically Charizard should win that one. Yeah, so it wasn't CMP tie, so they just got to it first. But that gives me a chance to throw the Blast Burn against Drifblim instead. And then I'm going to just let this Charizard go, because I know I could farm up energy on this Drifblim, and they can't probably get to another charge move in time. Yeah, they can't. So now I have a Thunder Punch ready. Gonna be pretty good depending on what they have in the back. So it is Escavalier. Escavalier is actually really good against Scizor. So what I'm going to do is actually try to stay in as long as possible here. I'm going to throw two Thunder Punches, and then they're going to shield the second one. And now I'm going to go straight for the Night Slash. And so I do let this go just in case it's an Acid Spray. I've seen a few Acid Spray Escavaliers, and I know I can survive one charge move right there. I'm going to just Bullet Punch down. And then now just go straight for the Night Slash and finish off the Alolan Muk. So yeah, so Drifblim usually a pretty solid lead. Alolan Muk, kind of a more neutral matchup to be honest. Alolan Muk obviously is not super effective against anything on my team, but it's also kind of neutral against everything. So it's not a very easy Pokemon to counter per se. Like I said, you can survive one Dark Pulse. I think he might be able to survive a Gunk Shot. I'm not sure, but I figured that probably wasn't a Gunk Shot. And then I'm going to drop back-to-back Thunder Punches right there. Again, safe swap Charizard. They actually do come with an Ampharos, so not a great spot to be in. But again, Blast Burn hits everything really hard. And because they didn't shield it, now I could just Fire Spin down and have energy for the next Pokemon. And we're still on even shield, so this is actually a very good spot for me to be in. I'm assuming it's going to be a Alolan Muk. I'm going for that Dragon Claw, but I'm just going to let this Charizard go. Already did his job. I'm going to come in probably with Ampharos and just drop a Thunder Punch. And let's see if the opponent shields or not. So if they shield, I'm thinking they're really weak to Ampharos, so I'm going to swap. Right? So anytime you see that kind of stuff, unfortunately, it's actually a Tangrowth. So I'm kind of surprised because Tangrowth has a much better matchup against Ampharos, so I'm surprised they let that go, or they shielded it. But yeah, so either way, I'm going to just drop a Night Slash just in case I can't get to the Iron Head in time, and then able to finish off the Tangrowth still, and then probably just let this go and then Volt Switch down with Ampharos. Yep. So yeah, definitely. Well, I guess I had enough energy too, so it was a little bit closer than I thought. But yeah. Crustle. So Crustle, kind of picking up a little bit. You definitely don't want it matched up against Charizard. So in this situation, I'm just going to stay in the matchup. I'm assuming usually that people with Crustle do not have waters in the back because that rock field damage is really their main anti-fire Pokemon. So I'm just hoping that they don't have any water in the back. So I'm just going to let this Ampharos go if it comes to it. I did shield the first move just in case it was a Rock Slide is going to hit a lot harder. So unfortunately I can't get the second move off, but I'm going to farm up extra energy on the Scizor. And so they do have a water, but it's not the typical water, I guess. It's Poliwrath. So that's fine, but then they're not swapping out, so it's making me think that maybe they have something weak to Charizard in the back. It could be Venusaur, so if it's Venusaur, Scizor has a great matchup there, so not too worried. But I am going to start shielding this because they really need to preserve this Poliwrath, so I'm going to do as much damage as I can with this Charizard. And again, Poliwrath is a really good counter to Scizor, so need to do what I can. Luckily was able to catch the Ice Punch, that was huge. And then it's going to be a Venusaur. So Venusaur, again, definitely has a great matchup against with Scizor, has a great matchup against it. And then I'm just going to just do as much as I can to take it down. I'm going to survive this Frenzy Plant and just farm straight down and probably just drop a Iron Head on this Poliwrath to finish it off. So actually, this is actually very similar to my Zangoose team. It's Zangoose, I had Zangoose, Poliwrath, and Venusaur, so they just replaced Zangoose with Crustle. So yeah, definitely changed the team comp a little bit, but very interesting team. But yeah, usually Ampharos is better to stay in that matchup. So Gengar is actually kind of tough for this team to deal with, and they're baiting me with 2 Shadow Punches, so not great. But I'm going to charge up to 2 Thunder Punches. They actually let it go, so now they're in a 2-0 shield advantage. So again, going to bring in my Charizard. I'm going to go for the Dragon Claw, see if they go for a shield or not. They don't shield, very surprising, because that could have been a Blast Burn. Again, I should just drop the Blast Burn. I have no shield, so there's no way I get to another move, and I had the Blast Burn right, just like that time against Gallade. So they actually don't shield again. This is huge. So now I'm going to drop the Dragon Pulse, and then I'm thinking, alright, if they don't shield this, I'm going Bullet Punch down. So that's actually what I decided to do, swap straight to Scizor once I could, and then they're probably wishing that they use shields at this point, but I should be able to survive these Frenzy Plants, and then just straight Bullet Punch down. No need to throw a Charge Move, because I can't get to 3 Charge Moves in time anyway. And then I don't want to give them extra energy by throwing Charge Moves and them getting extra fast moves. So great matchup there. Alright, case in point, why you might want to run Focus Blast Ampharos. Usually it's not as good, but against Snorlaxes, against Obstagoons with shields down, it could be huge. So we're just going to go straight for the nuke and see what happens. Takes it out. And then they have a Charizard back, and then they're going to concede the match. Again, I think both Dragon Pulse and Focus Blast have a lot of play. It really just depends on what you're looking for. I think overall Dragon Pulse is a little bit better, but as you can see, Focus Blast does come in handy at times. No Zangoose this time, unfortunately, but I think overall it's a lot of fun to play this team. I think Scizor is actually a very unique pick that a lot of people don't utilize, but I think has a lot of play, and overall I think has really great synergy with Charizard and Ampharos. Big shout out to all my patrons who have been supporting my content creation. If you also want early access to some of these lineups, definitely sign up to the Meta Breaker tier, where you get these early strategies right when I come up with them. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share, subscribe for future content, hit that notification bell to get notified right when I drop a video, and I'll see you all next time.